was 15 years old, my father decided to pull the strings at the sheriff's office and get me my hunting license. Get me into the woods so I could get my first kill. You know, and this to me was pretty terrifying. I never aspired to be a hunter, and in fact, I just met this guy. Well, for the first years of my life, I lived in foster homes, and then when I was 12, I went to go live with my mom, but then she ran away with some guy from Puerto Rico, so now at 15, here I am, moving in with this guy who I barely know. Tony D'Amico, my dad. Comedian actor Buddy Hackett once explained, as a child, my family's menu consisted of two choices, take it or leave it. But what he doesn't explain is that sometimes leaving it isn't an option, which makes us ask how much anybody, especially a child, can reasonably be expected to take. First Kill by Frank D'Amico. My dad was a bit of a hard hat wearing, beer guzzling, football watching, outdoorsy macho man, and although I barely knew him, in the county where he's from, in the world of hunting and fishing, he's a legend. Okay, like he's a celebrity, and if you know anything about, you know, hunting or fishing in the county of Deutsches, you know who Tony D'Amico is. So I believe we were days away from deer hunting season when my old man drags my 15-year-old ass out to the backyard where he'd stacked up a couple bales of hay, attached a target, and then handed me a loaded 12-gauge shotgun. This was very frightening to me. I was really frightened to be this close to a gun, and so I held the gun up to my head, and I was aiming at the big red spot, and I'm aiming. And you would have thought I was like daring the target to move or something, but the motivation to finally pull the trigger came. What are you waiting for? Back up? Shoot the thing. So with that, I put the scope up to my head, closed my eyes, and fired. When I got up, my balls were in my belly, and there was blood trickling down my head. Now, you see, when I fired the gun, I rested the scope up against my head, so the kick of the gun pretty much shot a hole through my face. So I got myself together, and I looked to see if I had hit in the target. But I failed. And then my dad looks at me with the smoking shotgun in his hand and goes, "You one load of baby bat I should have shot down the toilet." Now, to my way of thinking, any idea of going out into the woods should have all ended right there. But you see, my dad already had 5 daughters, so he had to break me, you see. He had to do what his brothers had done with their sons and, you know, get me out into the woods and get my first kill. And I think he was further compelled to do this when that year at Arlington High School, I broke new ground by being the first guy ever to take a home economics class. And then that October, I began to study ballet. But what really flipped my old man's homophobic lid was when I got my ear pierced. And for that, I took a beating. So, into the woods we go. First day of deer hunting season. I'm wearing so many layers of clothes I can barely move. and I'm following close behind my dad because I'm a little scared. Because at this point in my life, I thought it might have been a bad idea to, you know, trip up and accidentally shoot him in the back. So we've been walking into the woods maybe 15 minutes, and my dad goes, like he just found a piece of gold on the ground. And he picks up this little brown pellet, and he's squishing it through his fingers, and he's sniffing it like it's some sort of aromatic delicacy. And then he sticks it in my face and tells me, "Yeah, the deer shit's fresh. We're on the trail." So further into the woods we go. Another 5-6 minutes, and my dad takes out from his little camouflage bag a little spray bottle, like one of those little Visine bottles, you know, and he tells me, "You want to put this on yourself, it'll keep the deers from picking up your scent." well, it's a grand idea in a bottle, so I'm generous with it, you know. I'm putting it all over myself. And I put the cap back on, and I notice I'm spraying myself with deer pee. At 5:30 in the freezing cold November morning in the middle of the woods, I'm giving myself a golden shower. With buck pee. So further into the woods we go. Now the sun's starting to poke from the trees, and my dad's finally found the spot where I'm supposed to post up and wait for him to come and get me. And he informs me, "You better not move. There's a lot of New York City hunters out here, and anything that moves, they shoot." So he's easily convinced me to stay put. So he goes on to his post. I rest my gun up against the tree, take out my little bag of sandwiches, drink an entire thermos of coffee, and I just sat there, you know, kind of let my thoughts drift. Drift to things like who the hell it is that runs through the forest collecting deer pee in these bottles. And then all of a sudden, a deer goes running by me, like right in front of me. And it's gorgeous. It's magnificent. And I've never seen a deer before, so now I'm excited, you know? Like, I'm all wide-eyed, and no thought of picking up the gun ever occurs to me. I just want to see these deer. So I'm looking through the forest, and then here comes another deer, but this one's not running. This one's sort of just leisurely trotting. And then it stops like 10, 12 feet in front of me. And it's gorgeous. It's the keen brown eyes were like really taking me in. And I'm looking at this deer, and this deer's looking back at me, and I'm apologizing. Like telepathically, I'm apologizing to this deer, and the deer seems to be forgiving. And it's like I'm indirectly meeting God. And then, BAM! And I never saw him fall because I fell back from the sound of the gun myself. And I got myself together, and I heard my dad screaming, "Yo, Frankie, get over here!" So I got myself together, and I had no idea he was this close. As it turned out, the first deer that ran by, he had been chasing in hopes that I would get my first kill. But he couldn't wait any longer. He had to shoot this one. So I got myself together, and I went and I stood over the deer, and there was blood oozing out of its nostrils, and it's given like its final kicks of life. And I thought, let's just get out of here, let this thing die in dignity, you know. And then I look up at my dad, and he's glowing with pride. And that would sort of be the nature of our relationship from there and out. And that the proudest moments for my dad would usually be the most devastating for me. And my proudest moments would usually be embarrassing for him.